Welcome to the Scaling Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Harper, and today's guest is Navin Goyal. Navin was an anesthesiologist, realized, hey, there's got to be more to this whole deal in life than just working a job and making great money. He left that to go build a business. He raised venture capital, and he built this business that serves a specific niche that helps people that have these very specific problems get mobile anesthesiology in a much faster way. So we talk all about that. We talk about scaling your business. We talk about life. We talk about health. We talk about wellness. We talk about content. It is a great episode. I know you're really going to enjoy it. Navin, welcome to the Scaling Podcast, man.
Thank you for having me, man. It's great to be here.
I'm excited. I've been looking forward to this conversation. It sounds like we're going to have we have a lot in common, and we're going to be able to dig into a lot of cool stuff. So, let's start for the people who don't know you. A little bit about your background. You jumped from, being a doctor to this kind of entrepreneur, and have had some businesses and some exits. And I'd like to just learn more about that and how you kind of got to where you are now. And then I'll probably ask some more questions about things that you say, and we'll go down different rabbit holes, and it'll be great.
Let's do it, man.
Yeah,
grew up in the Midwest and wanted to be a physician since grade school and worked hard to get there. I'd like to openly say that it wasn't easy in any way. So I was the person who wasn't great at standardized tests. School didn't come easy. I worked really hard. I used a lot of discipline to make it, to get good grades, to do decent enough. And every step of the way, I doubted myself, saying, can I really be a doctor? And when I became a physician, I went to medical school and loved anesthesiology, which a lot of people don't say that. But I liked a couple topics in medical school that I really was encouraged to check out anesthesiology. And so I loved it. I trained, and then I got a job at the age of 31, a real job that paid after 12 years of training. And I thought that was it, man. This is success. This is everything I worked for. And how grateful I am for that journey. But a few years into it, I was like, okay, no longer studying. Now the learning curve is a bit flat now because I know the process, I know the job, I'm not as nervous. Now what? And I started reading. I started, always read the business section of the Wall Street Journal. I was really intrigued about brands and these technology companies. At that time, Tesla, Apple, these things were going public. I was like, man, I started reading about the founder stories. I got very intrigued about entrepreneurs. And, I was also catching up on some finances after many years of being a trainee. And I started personally investing. Started out with a little bit of real estate, eventually got into startups. And so now, like, the entrepreneurial world and the aspirations of doing what, leaving comfort and being driven towards purpose and something that you cared about so much, and you could be irresponsible because you were so focused on it, was so foreign to me, because the physician route's pretty predictable, and it's known that it's challenging, but once you cross a path, you get there. You know where you are. I think in the entrepreneurial world, you don't know anything. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know if you're successful tomorrow. So I ended up, investing, and then I ended up starting a first business called Offer Health, which is a mobile anesthesia services company. And spinning off of the knowledge of being an anesthesiologist, I started with a couple others, and we got some traction, and that's, really empowered me to say, we have a business now that takes care of patients. We take care of a lot of kids on Medicaid who basically have these long waits for care because dental and Medicaid are the lowest on the priority. I mean, when it comes to a hospital or healthcare system, it just doesn't reimburse well. And so they get lost in the mix. And so you have a 4-year-old child with dental disease who basically has to wait a year to get seen. So they're living with pain, let's say 10 teeth that need to be extracted for a year. And so these kids are in pain, they can't concentrate, nor can their parent or guardians. They go to the ER for pain meds, while you have a 4-year-old child on private insurance who don't necessarily have the same statistically as much disease, but when there is an issue, within a week they can get treated. So our company basically takes care of this problem, this gap, by going to offices, avoiding the hospital operating room at all, and doing general anesthesia in an office. So within a month,
wow.
these kids get taken care of. And so this is now 11 years into it, and we can go down many different discussions. It's a venture backed. I sit on the board now, I have a full executive team, etc. We're in 4 states. This past year, we took care of 13,000 kids in these 4 states. And
wow.
The average wait is a month versus a year. And in Chicago, it's 2 years. And I spent some time on that. Number one, because I'm proud. Number two, because it shifted how I look at business and entrepreneurship, which is, wait, I can still take care of people. Wait, I can have all these stakeholders really happy. It's not like I'm getting business and other people are losing, right? Insurance companies are happy, dentists are happy, patients are happy. The hospitals don't want these kids to take up their operating rooms anyways, so they're happy. And I'm like, wow, you can do this win-win-win, and you can actually make a profitable business. There's something here.
Right.
And a year later after starting this, I started an angel fund because I was investing. People around me were like, man, I want to get in on this kind of early stage companies. And being in the Midwest, you don't have a long-term, 12th generation venture capital like there is in Cali. You have more of a 4th generation. And so a lot of people don't know what venture is or was. And so there was an opportunity to do this early and educate people and investors. And I just happened to be there talking about it in storytelling. So, this fund turned into more funds in a firm called Loud Capital, which is to be loud and active in our investing, because I love the people element. Money is a vehicle to build trust and get into a company, but then when it comes to scaling, when it comes to anything building, there's 99 other things that we need to focus on, and I love those things. So I know I said a lot, but those are a few things that got me to what we're talking about today.
That's awesome. So you left a great job where you were making killer money that you worked 12 years to do, you studied 12 years to do, to go into this entrepreneurial abyss and have scaled a company now for 11 years and have a great team in place and have had, sounds like, pretty significant success. Yeah, that's incredible.
Thank you. The only thing I will tell, there's a bridge, multiple years of working while building. So I didn't have to make that decision until the end of 2019 when I did leave my medical practice, which was a significant jump, to run Loud Capital, still grow off the top, and continue to do all the things, content, everything alongside it. Yes, it's a very externally radical thing to do when you study so hard, and that's what made it so hard, but that's what makes it so fulfilling when you take that risk.
Yeah. I was working, similar to you, I was working at a company learning how to basically build franchise brands. I was working as an employee at franchise brands and helping those brands grow. And they offered me an opportunity to make $1 million a year and run a brand for them and run 2 other brands. And it would have been all I had to do was keep doing what I had done for the last 6 years, and everything would have been fine, and I would have made 7 figures a year. And I was like, wait a minute, I can do this on my own. I could take this risk. I could find a business. I could franchise that business. I could raise capital. I've never done that before, but this company's going to pay me $1 million. They're certainly going to get, at the very least, a 10 to 15x return on that investment for me, at the very least. And I'm going to own none of the upside. And I was like, I'll just do it on my own. And so I left, very similar to you, a very secure deal to go find a business and basically acquire the brand and turn it into a franchise.
Wow. And what would you say about your personal growth in that move? How do you translate that into the benefits or learnings that other people are curious about that may not see?
Yeah, so I think that's the one of the things that people don't understand about entrepreneurship is that it is a constant professional development course that you're going through that is constantly testing everything that you think you know about yourself. And in order for the company to grow, you have to be growing personally. And what that requires is the faster the company grows, the more you as the founder or the person running the company, the faster you have to evolve as like a human. And I certainly didn't know that when I went into owning a business, because when you're an employee in a department of a company and you're like, hey, that department should be doing this differently, like that department should be doing this differently, but you're still like, you get your paycheck and you have a function within the business. Yes. When you go from an employee to a founder, everything is reliant upon your ability to like hire great people and like execute. And by the way, while you're doing that, you have to constantly be concerned of if everything's going to work out or not. And there's no level of certainty, to your point, around is this going to work out. If there was certainty, everyone would be an entrepreneur. And so the very thing that is going to challenge you into becoming this new version of yourself is the fact that it's going to be really hard every single day and completely push you to the point where like you have to evolve. And so I always knew, for me, like, and I'm curious as to your opinion on this because you also have an executive team in place. I always knew that there would be a point in which I was no longer going to be the CEO of my company. If we executed properly, meaning if we added enough units and got enough franchisees open and put enough trucks on the road. I mean, we're in 35 states now. We have 115 units open. We have 326 sold. And so like the skill set necessary to go from a founder that's taking something from 0 to 1 to I'm going to go from 300 to 600. I'm going to go from 30 million in system-wide sales, let's just say, to 200 million. And we need to do this in 3 years, let's just say, or we're going to do this in 3 years. Like, that is a different person. And so that's the other thing that I think people don't understand about entrepreneurship is like, your duty is to the business. It's not to your ego. And you know what I mean? Like, it's just not. 100%. And like, I always said I would run the business until it no longer makes sense for my suppliers, my franchisees, my employees, for me to continue doing it. And so that was why a couple months ago, we hired a professional CEO. He's got 22 years doing this stuff. He's built really big, like $500 million or $1 billion brands. And like, he's running the organization. And I sit on the board and I get to do things like talk to you and high level content creation. And I manage the board. But I had to evolve since 2023 when we launched this company and we had one unit. I had to evolve as a human into this person that I wasn't 2 years ago. And if you don't do that, your company's not going to work.
Yeah. And dude, congratulations on that, because a lot of people never reach that moment where they need to let go of ego or, build a more holistic awareness of themselves and say, these are my strengths and this is my bigger portion of weaknesses, and I need to complement that. And the ability to delegate. I did that really early, and I actually just reflected on this, and it just hit me why I delegated, because I needed to. Because when I was a full-time anesthesiologist and building these businesses, I was already delegating to my co-founder and other people. And so it came out of the functional aspect of it. And then when I left and I was full-time, I quickly found out that like, oh man, like I have a lot of gaps even though I'm full-time here. And it became a natural thing for me to lean on others. But now that's why I've started 4 ventures now, because the ability to delegate and knowing that I'm a 0 to 1 person, and then I'm really like, I feel I'm pretty good at that. But then after that, my gosh, I think there's so many other experienced, amazing people that hopefully or do carry the same values as me that can continue that and grow it and scale it. That's a superpower, and I've realized that, and that's one of, it's a short list, but that's one of my powers, is to be able to delegate.
Yeah. Well, you've got to. You're building, ideally, anyone who builds a business is building an asset that can run without them. I think the reason why so many people don't get to that point is they feel like the business needs them to exist. And then the business is limited to your abilities as the founder. And every business, I think, maybe not every business, but most businesses are going to outgrow the founder. For a founder to go from like a 0 to 1 person to within, let's call it 3 to 5 years, needing to be like an operational like person who's done this for 15 years and specializes in like creating SOPs at the very micro level and recruiting people and building departments out. That is a different person generally.
Yeah.
Now you've got the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world and the, putting aside like the entrepreneurs that everyone knows, like your general entrepreneur who starts a business will be outgrown by the business if the entrepreneur does a good job. So I'm curious, with the executive team that you hired, so you ran the company in the nights and weekends while you were doing anesthesiology?
So I'm gonna tell you how it shifted to a scalable model out of necessity. And so myself and 2 very close friends who are anesthesiologists started this company. We're all practicing full time, all have young families, and so our spouses are like, really, like you studied this hard and you got your jobs and you're doing well and you want to start something, but we can't stop us.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We must.
I get it.
Right?
Yeah.
We know that. So start this LLC, get through some of the regulations. Got a client. I mean, I still remember the day we celebrate, like, yes, we got it. Then a little bit later into the process, look at our legal contracts from our anesthesia partnerships. And so 2 out of us 3 are at the same hospital practice. In a private practice, look at the legal documents, and basically our attorney says, yeah, you can't practice outside of this partnership. Like, it's very restrictive. I'm like, what? And apparently it's very unique. We happen to work in a practice that literally is the only one I've heard of where you can't practice medicine outside of this contract. So I remember discussing it with these, and I was like, hell no. Like, we're not stopping. Like, we're going to get this done. Like, we're doing this. We got a client, we got a brand, and we came up, and this is when Uber was on the up and up, right? We're like, dude, we got to do the Uber model. It doesn't have to be us. So we reached out to some other anesthesiologists we knew, and even, it's a smaller community. And we started asking them, would you be interested, and do you have any restrictions? Most of them were like, this sounds kind of cool. Wait, what would you pay me for a 3-hour, shift or case? And we said, we're going to pay you, like, market. And then they said they have no restrictions. So we started it from the beginning with this scalable model of bringing other people to do shifts. It was never us.
That's great. Yeah, that's because you had to, out of necessity.
Had to. I could tell you some BS story and say, oh yeah, we were thinking big and like, hell no. We were thinking about a side gig that was, initially very attractive. We started with cosmetic dentistry, where people were going to spend a ton of money on their mouths for 5 hours, and they wanted an anesthesiologist. That's how it started. Within a year, got approached by a Medicaid insurance company in Ohio and said, oh, this is a huge problem, which we knew that was a problem, but we didn't know we would jump in there. And that's the fun that happened, and things started building. And then a couple years into it, we started getting a little busier, and I remember kind of pushing for, with my co-founders, saying, I think we need someone full-time with some business experience to run this, because we are all focused on our day jobs, and the company deserves it. And so we brought in a manager, and eventually we brought in a CEO who was an old buddy that I kind of recruited, was in California, and he wanted to run a business. So that's how the delegation and kind of bringing in an exec started. That was a step.
So you raised for this? You raised venture? Or did you not raise?
Yeah, we did eventually. We initially we did some angels. We got some angels in. And during that time, that was 2015 or 16, I had started the angel fund in 2015. So I'm starting to already just talk and storytell and get excited, because I still do, and attract. Oh my gosh, I want to get involved and participate in that. So we got some angels early on, and there wasn't a lot of overhead at the time, and we were working full-time jobs, and we were just putting our own money into it. So early on, we did some angels, and then our first round was probably in 2017 or 18.
How'd you structure those rounds, if you don't mind me asking?
No, not at all. We did convertible notes.
Okay.
In two of those rounds, actually 2 rounds.
Okay.
Because of the potential, and we were getting insurance contracts from different states now, and but yeah, and I don't think there's a right or wrong, right? It's what we did at the time. There's a lot of lessons learned on. We had the discussions of, should we get venture? Should we take venture? Yeah, and I'll be. I don't know how many people talk about this, but taking in venture and the relationships I have with the investors and how that's shifted decision making in the company, and then being in venture and being an investor, I have so many learnings of how to be and how not to be. And I also am one of those people that, just like a doctor to a patient, I don't want to see you. I don't want you in here. So please take care of yourself. I will say that to businesses. I don't want to see you in here. Like, I'm going to tell you some things that happen in this world, right? And I need to be straight with you. And so I have a lot of lessons learned of what I would tell younger Navin, and I'll tell any entrepreneur, things to think about before you go down that route.
What are some of those things?
When you raise money,
you would learn, yeah.
Absolutely. When you raise money from venture, you really have to know, this is going to sound so basic, but to truly absorb it. The purpose of an investor is they want to make money off your company, and in a timeline. So number one, when things change, pandemic hits, things get slower, things get crazier, or life happens, as we know, then we don't necessarily adjust to the new world timeline. We still stick to the investor timeline, which is, I put in this money, and hey, we need to make some changes. We're seeing this in this company. How come now we're not seeing it here? How come this quarter was slower? Why? Like, let's ask 100 questions to the CEO who's running the company and doing a great job, and ignore human element, which is a pet peeve. It's probably much stronger than a pet peeve. I don't know what you would call it. When you ignore the dynamics and chemistry in the team and the foundation that's being built over a quarter versus just the P&L. Mm-hmm. Right? So people will look at numbers only, or metrics that aren't measuring so many other things that we know of building and growing a business.
Yep.
So just get used to that. And I can complain all I want, but I was also pushing for venture. Mm-hmm. And so, it doesn't mean all venture is bad, but I've dealt with people who come in with a lack of awareness of these other things, strong financial background, and you tend to lean on your strengths. And so when you have not as great numbers this quarter, but you're recruiting and retaining amazing leadership that you feel like are going to take you to the next level, that doesn't show up. Right. How can you measure that? Right. So me being a people person, it significantly alters how I look at investors that would take a piece of my company and also have decision-making power, and just the fact that I need to work with them. I want to treat them like part of the company. Would I hire them? Those are the questions I would ask myself and others.
Yeah. So one of the best pieces of advice that I got, because I raised capital as well to do this. One of the best pieces of advice I got is, like, raise smart money. So there's a lot of dumb money out there. We all know that. Like, hey, I've got $4 million in the bank and I got to put it somewhere. Yeah. I also was considering doing a family and friends raise. And then I'm like, wait, now I have a bunch of K1s I have to issue, and like this is probably 30 grand is like a significant portion of this person's net worth, and they're going to call me and figure out when that's going. So I don't want to do that. So what I did is I was like, all right, I'm only going to choose people who A, have a long-term mindset in terms of like they don't need money out of the business anytime soon. So patient capital. Yep. I'm going to find people who have done this before. So they've built a franchise brand, and when I call them, they'll answer and they'll help me skip steps that I would otherwise have to pay money and time to learn myself. And the minimum amount of money I'm going to let someone invest is $100,000. So not taking $15,000 and $20,000 checks from a bunch of people. I'm taking a few checks from a few people that have experience, and I have full decision-making power, and they're minority investors. And so, like, it was like, okay, well, once I decided that was the structure that I wanted, then I had to back into valuation and deal terms and waterfall and preferred versus not preferred shares and advisory shares in order to get me to that point where I still had the ability to make decisions necessary. Whereas if I was to go raise private equity, let's just say, as an example, they'd be like, all right, yeah, cool, we'll put $1 million into your business.
Yeah.
But like, here's our 3 to 5 year timeline, and like, we're going to need an exit in 3 to 5 years. And I just don't think that's good for the company, but I get why people have to do it. It's just, dude, it takes so much to build like a meaningful company. Like, and you know, for the first 3 years of a business, like most of that should be reinvesting back into growth, like most of what comes out of the P&L. So like a multiple of EBITDA within the first 3 to 4 years is going to be considerably lower than it would be 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, depending on obviously the model of the business.
Yeah. And I think the wisdom that you have when you were taking in money is much more advanced than many people. So that's kudos to you for having that and structuring it strategically how you wanted it. That's a beautiful thing. And I think where I am now, I'd be able to do that, but that's after many learnings.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, like you said, many people are either not in a position to ignore the conversations, even from like some of the more aggressive investors. And then we got put in that position in this company, especially after our first round or second round, which was another note. We were burning a good amount of money on things that don't matter today in the company, but at the time there was things we were throwing money at, and so we were in a difficult position. So I also want to preface some of the stuff I've already said with, we were in a position of not in a position of weakness and being leveraged in that way. Had a bunch of employees, had a burn, and so again, things happen, and here we are. By the way, we turned profitable this year in 2025.
Nice, that's great. Congrats.
And things are like on the up and up. We're on a technically a third CEO, and happy to talk about the evolution of the different ones. But we're with a CEO who has operational experience and is doing a wonderful job. But the things that led up to here, my gosh, there's so many learnings that I'm taking for myself and my team, as well as when we're investing in companies, to share that. Because again, the goal is not to be a vulture and to extract value from, but build value with a founder and a team. And if you can do that, which I know it can be done, my gosh, everyone wins. Not only financially, but I sleep well at night, and I feel good that I treated people well, which was from kind of starting my physician roots in ethics, where when I first started kind of advising companies, I was like, man, it's crazy out here, just, I don't know, it's just the Wild West, where in a hospital and just like the setting that I was trained in is not about that. It's literally the patient first, and everything else comes second, almost to a fault when it comes to a financial model. But there's something to say about a humanistic approach. And so how do you take that happy medium, have good business acumen, but be people-centric? That's kind of what I've been working on alongside team members.
So have you had to exit any of your original angel partners, or have you exited any of the businesses that you've been invested in or anything like that?
Yes. Yeah. We have 5 exits from Loud Capital. We just had a fifth one happen a few months ago. And thank you very much. It's not easy, and it takes a long time, and I have significant stories of these things we're talking about here, from a founder and what they had to deal with or got kicked out. I mean, there's just so many stories I have because I know these founders very well. And so there's just so many learnings. But the one thing that really sticks to me is when you're investing in the person. It is so true. Like, that can't be more true, because there's people that have left their business and is doing something else, and I've kind of been in touch with them, and I'm like, this is why I invested in you. The way you handled this, the way you're understanding and communicating with me as an investor that this happened, is so important. And it's so important for credibility. It's so important for what they're doing right now. But yeah, man. So we're really proud, and I represent. I love to storytell. I do a lot of media and interviews and stuff like that. But I always like to say that I represent so many people that have made this happen. And it's an incredible journey so far.
And so Loud Capital is invested in how many startups? Yeah,
we have originally about 80 portfolio companies. 80. It was a lot of pre-seed investments. Started in 2015. And so like this last exit took 9 years, but that's how it is, especially when you're going in pre-seed so early.
Right.
So we're starting to see these maturations that occur in these exits. So we anticipate more coming soon.
So check sizes of what's the range?
Yeah.
Pre-seed rounds.
Back in the day when we started, the range was like 50 to 100K. Then it shifted more towards 150 to 250K. And now we're currently more focused on seed, Series A, going deeper into healthcare, innovation, therapeutics, and looking to write bigger check sizes, more like 3 to 5 million, in lead rounds and et cetera. And we've led a couple companies, but the more I and my partners have grown, we do realize that bringing our experiences, even on a more formal level, is really important, because it's worth saying that even the ones we've built so much trust with, if we invested in a pre-seed round and you have a Series A investor that comes in and takes board seats and you don't get a board seat, then now who's controlling that, like formally controlling that? And we've dealt with it. We've dealt with less experienced investors coming in with a bigger check size, or later coming in, and I've spoken to some of them, and I'm like, man, there's really not a lot.
You don't have the experience that we have.
Yeah. And instead of being frustrated, the entrepreneurial way, you just do it. You say, okay, what are we going to change? We're not going to go through this again.
Right.
So that's kind of like the evolution of how we're writing bigger checks and thinking about it differently.
Well, that's going back to what I was saying about smart money. You've got cash, but the value you bring is it sounds like far above just the cash, versus hey, I'm gonna put 50 grand into this thing, and maybe in 10 years we'll see some 10x 15x return, maybe, let's call it, and versus writing larger checks, but also being able to sit there and say hey, let me share my experience with you, and let me bring some value to you outside of just writing a check. I think that's really smart.
Yeah, thank you. And I, the other thing is, smart money is rarer than I thought. Mm-hmm. Because when and I'm talking now, let's talk about the highest standards when you're operating a business, right? Not like, oh, you don't know, like let's say a healthcare investor, okay? Healthcare investor, a VC that's been around for a while. The main investors are maybe, financial background folks who've learned a lot about healthcare through different consulting innovations, etc. But in the end, there's a gap. And and by the way, I want to say, like, sometimes I'm like, holy crap, these people are smart, right? And they're really smart in their domain. And that's really helpful for portions of the company. But when it comes to empathy with the founder of never building a business, when it comes to empathy with, let's say, a specific healthcare product or service they've never been in that environment, I mean, there's a gap. But then that's the gap, in my opinion, that can lead to losing or winning. And so that's why I feel smart capital is more rare than I originally thought. Even these big institutions that get so much money and have these wins can have so many more wins if they included people with operational experience and in some healthcare aspects, clinical experience, or at least be able to delegate or respect the diversity of experience needed for success.
Do you find, I mean, I agree. There's more dumb money than there is smart money.
Yeah.
And it's not close.
Not close.
In comparison. It's not like, it's like a fraction versus like, we have all this like money and we're going to put it somewhere, and it's like, yeah, but are you bringing any other value?
Yeah.
Do you find that, how do you find that being a founder helps impact your investing and your ability to like provide value?
Oh my God. I think I think the founder experience is a big portion of the value. Yeah. Because if I bring a check, someone else brings a check. Okay, some experience. We're seeing some companies, portfolio company, we can connect you, we can do this. Sure, that's important. The difference is founder. So there's the building the trust. Do we agree that building trust is excruciatingly important? And building that trust is by, many times with me, is the founder empathy, which is like, I know shit's messy back there, and it's okay. Let's talk about that. I don't care about the product that you're going to show at the board meeting. Let's talk about this. And I want to say, I have gotten calls with someone else emotional on the other side, losing their shit, because that's the real. And I want that because that's how I can help, and I'm not judging you. And so I think that's a big reason. And I want to tell you a really proud thing that I haven't spoken about publicly, which is a recent founder who contributed to our exit. We invested in him almost a decade ago. We got the exit. They got acquired. And he got some significant financial upside for his family. The first thing he said to his co-founder was, we're going to invest in Loud because of what they did. We were very small check writers and very early. But he brought up multiple times that we were the ones that gave them support, and even when they were in a couple binds, we were able to help them. And I remember this too. These were significant things that they were going through that we were helpful with. But how incredible and validating is that, where they exit and they just put money into one of our companies, and I expect more of these things, to happen. Talk about fulfilling and
that's great.
And I can tell you right now, I will not be investing in the VCs that are invested in multiple companies of mine. Not even close. Not even close. And I think that's more of a common thing. And so I'm not saying this to tout myself. I'm proud, and I'm proud of our team, and I want that to be continued, because that's a perpetual thing. Because now that's a founder that's exited, that's now an investor who also wants to understand how can I be valuable? right? I now have money, but I also like, I understand how helpful that can be. So for me, I can go to bed at night saying, wow, we are investing in a philosophy that's scaling, right?
Yeah.
Like that means a lot to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think the founder side of it is really important. So like we have, I have, other than I have, let me see, five, two, three, four. I have five basically pre-seed partners that invested. And four of them were founders. And the amount of empathy that they have during times of challenge or strife that inevitably happen in any business, comparatively to, one that doesn't have that founder experience, it's not close. Like, it's completely different in terms of the understanding of it. And that's because, like, starting a company from scratch isn't like sitting on the board of a publicly traded company. It's just not the same, right?
Yeah.
And you can sit on the board of a publicly traded company because you've invested or you've raised a ton of capital and you've put a deal together to acquire a big franchisor or whatever it is. But like actually starting something from scratch and going from nothing to, let's just call it $10 million in revenue in like 3 years or less is a completely different ballgame, and it requires a different level of understanding about just business in general.
Yes.
That, to your point, the P&L doesn't matter. It's like, are the leaders leading? Are the departments forming? Are people getting open? In my case, like, our franchisees getting open, and we have a similar model. It's just franchising versus like the Uber model, but like you have people that are in a location running the business and growing it.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I've just noticed that, at least in mine. And so when and if I do get to a point where I'm investing in people, I will only invest if I can add value above and beyond capital. Like, I just wouldn't do it otherwise.
Yeah, that's where I'm at in life too. I don't want to be, even when we called it loud capital to be loud and active. How do you scale that though? Because the venture firm is bigger than me, and the amount of portfolio companies that are adding up and the needs that I recognize are greater than I've ever imagined, because again, a lot of dumb capital out there, all this wisdom that's gaining within our teams. How do we effectively connect that and scale it to these companies? And that's where the vision wasn't realized when we started it. But recently we started a new venture which complements Loud Capital, called Loud Collective. And that's, services, flexible executives, workshops, culture, leadership, which is serving many non-portfolio companies and non-ventured businesses. And we're applying that structure to our portfolio companies and future portfolio companies. So now I feel so much more complete, if you will, to say that we can invest in a company, we can be strategic, yes, I'm on the board, etc. Yeah, that's fine. But there's also, oh wait, you guys need a CFO? Boom, we have people in-house. And it's not necessarily from a fund. Hey, a fund is bringing operators like we've seen before. No, it's an independent culture and philosophy that I'm so proud that lives outside the venture world, because most companies aren't venturable or even candidates, or most people don't want it. It's a beautiful thing. So very, very proud of that, but it took a decade to come here.
So how'd you build the Loud Collective? Like, what were the steps to get to where you are now?
The Loud Collective actually came from a friend of mine who, well, actually, I'll take a step back. A year ago, I got introduced to a gentleman who started a flexible executive firm locally here in Columbus, Ohio, where I am. And he had exited his company. He was CEO of a large digital marketing agency. And I was talking to him. I was like, wow, that's interesting. He's like, yeah, I realized that people could use this speed and value, in a lot of companies. And you have a bunch of portfolio companies, Navin. You should check this out. it happened to be that I needed some in some of my companies. Offer Health needed a CFO several months ago. My CEO said, man, I'm thinking about getting this controller, and I really need someone I can trust and really help me. And I told him bluntly, I said, I feel like the company's at a stage where it needs a CFO. And we had one in the past, and he was going where the lowest barrier was, which is, let me just get a controller that I know. I said, let me figure out if I can get a CFO for you fractionally. You don't need someone full-time at the moment. Within a week, CFO comes in. He loves him. He didn't have a lot of time to, educate him or onboard, right? So the speed was there. And it's been, I think, 7, 8, 9 months. And he said, my CEO said, my God, he's going to be with me forever if I can control it, whatever team. And so the speed of that was incredible. So going fast forward, Aaron Boggs, who's the founder of this firm, it was called Infinite CXO, gives me a call several months ago. Said, Navin, with your portfolio companies, the way you do business and what you want to do with Loud, and what I'm seeing with the flexible executives, I want to accelerate my world, because I think I can enter companies not just with CXOs, but with so many other things. So we started whiteboarding, and a couple of months later, we said, let's do it. So Loud Capital acquired his flexible executive firm, and now it's so much bigger. So we have these flexible executives, beautiful thing. But there's other things we do. We do business assessments and valuations. So, I'm going to say a journey that you already know, which is build a business, becomes really attractive, and you say, hey, maybe we should sell this thing, or things are happening in my life, I want to exit this business. Usually get a consulting firm, an iBank, etc. They do a valuation, boom, 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 and you put it on the market and you sell it. Well, guess what? Guess what I learned recently? I learned from Aaron that some people who engage with you are on both sides, and they will value your company based on the buyer that they know. Oh, and you can get both sides from a commission standpoint, but no one was on the
disclosed.
side.
That wasn't disclosed.
That wasn't disclosed, and who was looking out for the founder or the business owner? Okay.
Wow.
So yes, and I was like, what? And he would tell me this story, and then recently he kind of said, no, that's what happened to me. I go, what? And it really hit me, and I was like, oh wow, this is like legit. So we started talking about it. So now with the Loud Collective, we're working with companies, even if they don't even want to sell it. Let's help you understand your business better by doing this assessment, and then you and the leadership team and your employees are building value in the company because you know that the 100 different directions, this is what the market cares about, this is what you should care about, and just you should know. We're going to empower you with that data. And then if it becomes a time, you now know the value of your company. So that's what we're doing with the Loud Collective. And then outside of, hey, you could benefit from a flexible executive, you could benefit from this. We're all accountable because we're looking at the numbers together. We're not selling you a product or a service. So it's a very authentic way to grow a business alongside the business owner and not as an investor.
Yeah, that's really smart. I mean, what I did, so when I launched Rolling Suds, I basically developed a checklist of things that I was looking for in a brand.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like unskilled labor, like, and the way I established this, and this is probably what you guys, something similar to you guys do at Loud Collective, is I called every single person that I know that is either part of the companies, that is somehow part of the companies that end up acquiring franchisors. And I was like, hey, like, what are the drivers for you when you're looking at evaluating businesses? And what are the things that increase the multiples of what you pay? Tell me about some of the biggest deals you've done and the biggest checks you've written. Why did you write those checks? And then based upon what they told me in terms of what their kind of check boxes are when they're evaluating companies, was then how I made my checklist for then how I evaluated the brands that I was the businesses I was going to acquire and turn into a franchise brand. And that just allowed me to be really strategic and look at these different companies. And it was like, well, how many boxes of the checklist does it check? And then it was like a very objective analysis versus like, oh, I really like this founder and I think he could do really, really well, which obviously that's a huge piece of it. But the way I structured the deal for me is like I'm creating a separate company, right? So like it's a company that franchises another company. They're going to keep running their company. I'm going to run this new company. So how many check boxes does that company check in order to replicate their model in as many markets across the country as possible? And the way I chose the value drivers was simply based upon the people who buy these businesses, what their value drivers were.
Wow, dude, you know, if no one's told you this before, you deserve success for a reason. You really have brought a lot of wisdom and thought process to what you've built. And I know we haven't spoken a lot about your background and everything, but it's really strategic and smart, man. Like there's a lot of gems there that you said.
Thank you. I mean, I had never done it before, but
Yeah.
I was like, I think I know how it should be done.
Yeah.
It was like, it's almost like when you work at companies, you work in the industry that then you're turning into a business as a business you're going to run. You get the opportunity to just learn from other people's mistakes. And so like I joke, like I got a doctorate in franchising from literally just working at a franchise company that franchised businesses for 5-6 years before starting a company. I would have not had that same level of understanding and that same level of success if I just decided to go start in like a healthcare company or like a startup, a tech startup. Like I just wouldn't have had the same knowledge and the same advantages that I've been able to have with this one.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's awesome.
So talk to me a little bit about content. Well, first, you're married. I heard you say you've got
I'm
family,
married.
kids.
Yeah, I'm married. I have 2 teenage daughters, 17 and 15.
Nice. I'm assuming they keep you pretty busy.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, in fact, a lot of my content on LinkedIn, it's ridiculous. It tends to be about my daughters and the lessons learned, and because it really is talking to your younger self. How would you do things differently? And I feel like the kids become the vehicle or the recipient of that. So yeah, and I'm extremely grateful, like the relationships I have with them, and I do not take that for granted.
And what are some of the things you do to scale your life the way you've scaled your business?
So I'm a discipline machine.
Okay.
So I'm a very big morning routine guy. So I do a lot of internal focus to start my day every single day. And then I start my day externally. And so one way I've kind of grown is I do reading and writing every morning. I do Wim Hof breathing exercises.
Oh, nice.
The last year I've been using a mental fitness operating system called Positive Intelligence.
I haven't heard about that.
It's a book, and then there's also like an app, and it's an operating system. So throughout the day, there's little prompts and ways to shift your mindset into more positive and productive ways. That's really impacted me.
It's called what? What is it called?
It's called Positive Intelligence.
Okay, I'm gonna write this down.
Yeah. And so if you end up reading it or listening to it and you're interested in discussing it more, I'm happy to talk about it. But I've been doing this operating system for about a year now, so it's significantly shifted the way I look at things, and it's very accessible, it's very doable, and I think that the mindset and strengthening the mindset to overcome and manage emotions has been incredible while being okay with emotions. I'm very vulnerable and put myself out there, but it's just the way the perspective shifts that I have. And so outside of that, there's the physical health. I do a lot of yoga, walking, weights. So a lot of personal development and growth is a fundamental piece of what my friends and family say a significant evolution of what they remember, 5 years ago.
Yeah. I love hearing that, man. I've gone, particularly in the last couple of years since launching the company, really gotten into health and what I'm putting into my body and how I'm doing it. I'm currently training for an Ironman, which I'll do at the end of next year.
Wow.
I've got my logo here. Yeah, I haven't done it yet. We'll
Yeah,
see
yeah,
how it
yeah.
goes. But
Yeah.
I'm training, so I've got my Rolling Studs logo here, and then I joined a team with a professional coach called Working Triathlete. So the founder of that is like my coach, and I'm kind of like, I want to talk about your content strategy and stuff, but like a lot of my business is generated through content creation. And content, what I've found recently, there's so much AI content that I think a lot of people are shutting off to a lot of the educational content that worked 2 years ago. Like, let me tell you 3 ways to franchise your business, or 3 ways to get your, like, I think that is less relevant now than it was before, largely because if you prompt AI the right way, like, AI can create that for you, right?
Yep.
Like, and it can, and so what I think is going to continue to be valuable and will get traction is story-driven, founder-led content that is based upon the things you're doing in your life, and almost even like less produced, because the more authentic it is, meaning like authentic is like, hey, I'm talking to my camera right now and I just put something up that I created in 2 seconds. I think that's going to do really well. So when I stepped into chairman of the board of my company, I was like, well, what the hell am I going to do? Other than like make strategic decisions, maybe what am I going to do? And I was like, I don't want to go start another business because there's still so much that can be done in my existing business. And so I was like, well, I guess I'll just train for an Ironman. That'll make me better as a human.
Wow.
And then I'll also create content about it. And so you have evergreen content every day that is content, and then just say like building a business versus training for an Ironman. And like there's a lot of overlap. So like that's kind of the part of the reason why I did it. But yeah, so it's really content's I'd love to hear kind of more about your content strategy and how it impacts your life, your business, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think the content started like early in my entrepreneurial journey, and I started posting on LinkedIn, and that was really got the muscle going on thinking about things, sharing it, getting positive reinforcement that someone got value out of it. And so when I say I write and reflect and all these learnings, a lot of my content is really a public diary. And so a lot of the thoughts, vulnerable, whatever, I've just learned to do it. And that's why I think I've really embraced vulnerability, and I encourage other people to be vulnerable because it's really helped me. It's helped build the brand, but it's also positively reinforced the introspection that I do. Mm-hmm. And so LinkedIn has kind of been a big community for me. And then I ended up writing a book on the shift from medicine to more venture and entrepreneurship called Physician Underdog. And so writing has I was horrible in English class. I hate writing papers, but when you put something you're writing about that you're passionate about, and this is some stuff I speak about too, I do some keynotes. When I used to do presentations on medical things, I used to get nervous and blah, 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 and I would practice a lot. Now I practice, of course, still, but I get so much energy delivering the message because I care about it. And that's the same thing about writing. And so I think me and you know the power of content. Yeah, it's good for business. If it gives you energy, then man, you're doing something you love. And I think to your point, even before AI, there's just a lot of stuff that's very almost puts more pressure on people and kids on you should be this. And so I like to counteract that. And maybe it's because externally I have some metrics of success, but I really want to counteract that with like, I still get nervous when I do this talk. Like I like to talk about that because there's not enough stuff about that. And I think this comes also from me almost talking to my daughters when I'm doing my content, which is I need them, and I need all these other people, impressionable minds, to hear this, that me, whatever, is talking about still getting nervous, still not feeling prepared, and that's okay, right? I'm walking into to present, and I'm not sure how it's going to land. Like, no one ever figures that out. So for me, the content it's powerful for business, it's powerful for me, but I also think it is one way that I feel like I can give to the world. It's my service to the world, and content is the vehicle. And I know you, Aaron, understand that, but a lot of people still don't understand that.
Yeah, why do you think that is? Because content, I mean, still seems like we're in 2025 and the majority of people still think content is either a waste of time, or the word influencer is a four-letter word, or it's all about you. Like, I just get, like, I wonder why that is. Like, there's so much evidence that suggests that it is a high leverage use of time, especially as a business owner. I mean, why do you think it is that it's still
I don't know. I
so
really
perceived?
wish I had the answer, because I really wish, man. And if I figured it out, I would apply it immediately to the people around me, because I still feel like I'm on an island. And so I don't know. I feel like the word soft comes to mind, the word too long term, not in our short term, kind of like a marketing budget, right? Most CEOs I've talked to, even in my own portfolio companies, you say the word marketing and they're just like, yeah, right? Like, I have bigger problems.
It's like, that's how you drive revenue. What are you talking about?
Hey, I got bigger problems. I'm working on sales. Yes, that's what I'm talking about, man. I'm talking about sales. So I don't know, but one thing I'm not going to spend energy on is trying to convince them. I can't. I'm a disciplined dude, but I have no desire.
You can't even, in this case, you can't even lead a horse to water in this case. Like, I've seen it. It's like, dude, you have a great business, but literally no one knows about it. Like, it would be a lot bigger if more people knew about your business, which means you need to advertise more. Oh, well, I'm trying to break into my local market. Okay, well, how much content are you doing? Well, none. I'm running pay-per-click ads. Okay, well, like, people are on social media. They're not on Google unless they're searching for something.
Yeah.
So how do you get them to look at you when they're on social media? You create content.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild to me.
It's wild.
It's insane. So how does it help you drive your business? Does it help you raise capital for Loud? Does it drive, leads for your?
It drives.
Like, how does it?
I think all the above. It's helped me raise capital. I think the bigger play is it builds trust and credibility. So if anyone is going to work with me or any of my companies, they know what they're getting into. I think that's probably the most powerful. But yeah, there's been straight investors that say, I want to invest in what you're building. It's gotten me keynote. I just did a keynote for a conference a few months ago, and that was awesome. Really got a lot of energy from it. Did a book signing there, which was my first time. That was really cool. So all those things, but I think at the core, which I didn't realize before, the personal development, the intellectual stimulation and learning that I've had to do to show up the way, even for an interview like this, the things I've had to think about to be able to enunciate what we're talking about has been probably the greatest asset. And right. And so, I mean, even you just with conversing and being able to eloquently speak about what you're speaking about takes time, but we get better at it. And it happens to be content for other people and for your business, for leads, but you're getting better. And that becomes like, what's the value of that?
Yeah. I mean, the piece of it that you could sit there and really reflect on your own personal experience, and then you have to be able to I don't want to use the word dumb it down, but like, you have to make it readable and understandable for, I mean, you really do have to make your content like readable for like a sixth grader,
Yeah.
just because that is going to resonate the most. Like Alex Hormozy does this, in my opinion, like the absolute best. Like
he's so good.
He's so good at dumbing down, taking very complex business topics and making them understandable at like a third grade reading level.
Yes.
I've never seen anyone who does it as well as he does. But like to be able to do that takes significant self-awareness. And so as I think through content creation, like it is a compounding asset, not just for revenue creation in your business, which that seems to be an inevitable. If you create content, like you'll get more revenue in your business, but it compounds because you're building content creation is building relationship and trust at scale.
Yep.
And so like I had a thesis. I was doing sales in my company up until April of last year. And I was like, okay, I think that if I hire a chief development officer and 2 people underneath them, and I focus entirely on being the CEO, but also like founder-driven content and content creation, I think that the decrease in cost to acquire a franchisee will not only pay for the sales team, but will also enable me to go then recruit like C-suite executives to run the company. And I'm not kidding you, Navin. Everyone thought it was a bad idea. Like my business partners thought it was a bad idea. There was probably 1 or 2 people in my life that were like, yeah, go all in on content, right? And I was like, no, I promise. And like franchisees thought it was a bad idea. Like I'm not kidding. Like there was no one that was like, yeah, Aaron, go talk about yourself online for a lot, like all the time.
No.
But what ended up happening is we went from 7% of our franchise sales revenue in 2023 coming from content and like organic sources to 42% of our franchise sales revenue coming from content in 1 year. So you think about the decrease in cost to acquire, your biggest typically cost as a business owner is your cost to acquire a customer. So we had the ability to like increase significant value, hire great people to support our franchisees. And so in addition to that, because of the content, we were able to recruit higher level people that wanted to be involved with the brand because of how visible we are in the franchise space. So recruiting became easier. It was compounding in the sense of me developing more understanding of myself, being a better leader. It was compounding because we got more leads. Like it's just like there was nothing I did last year from a return on like minute to revenue, minute to value in my life than content creation. And so we're just going all in on it.
Dude, I love that. And I hope I get a story like that where I can just showcase to the business that, because like that's a straightforward, hey, don't give me any friction, okay? Because I'm helping you out and I'm helping us out. And I love that. We need more of that. That's the problem, right? Unless you see that number change, sometimes I still feel like people are like, you're spending a lot of time doing content.
That's why I think the idea of content creation still being so negatively understood by the majority of Americans, like it, even in giving that data, we still had people in the organization that were like, no, you shouldn't be doing it. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, what else could I have done differently here to like, and so it's because a lot of people's perception of content creation is that it's ego driven.
Yeah, exactly.
And because it sometimes is perceived that way online, because you're like, hey, here's all the things that I learned about me, and here's how I can help you, right? Like ultimately, there's all these different ways, but it's in fact, if you're approaching it the right way, the least ego driven thing you can do, because it provides the most amount of value to the people that have decided to believe in you, whether they're franchisees, in my case, customers, investors, in both of our cases. Like they've invested in us to make decisions that might not be popular, that will drive the business forward. If the decisions that we made were popular, they wouldn't need us. They would just hire someone that they were gonna agree with all the time.
Yeah.
But we have to make these decisions that are unpopular because we know what's best for the business, and oftentimes we're the only ones in that scenario that know exactly what's best for the business.
100%. We need more Aarons in the world, man.
We need more Navins in the world. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I had a feeling I was going to. If people want to find out more about either investing in Loud or being part of any of your companies, like where should they go? How should they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I have a link tree on there with my website, Loud Collective website. I do have a new podcast called Made to Rise on YouTube and Spotify. But yeah, I mean, I think LinkedIn's a great way to connect with me and go from there, man.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the Scaling Podcast. It was great to get to know you, and we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, man, it was great. Thank you for having me.